NJSA 10:4-6 at SEC, New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act. Nora, call the roll.
I just introduced it wrong. Mr. Berkowitz? Mr. Joskowitz?
Here.
Mr. Kaplan?
Here.
Freak?
Here.
Mr. Prasad?
Here.
Mr. Reddy?
Present.
Ms. Snyder? Mr. Willens?
Here.
Chairman Ira Kane?
Present.
Also have Board Attorney, Mr. King, the Board Planner, Mr. Chadwick, and the Board Engineer, Mr. Holloway.
Here.
Nora, are you going to read that announcement about the link?
This announcement is for the members of the public who have joined this meeting on their computer and selected to use the phone option for audio. If you dialed into the system using your phone, you will not be able to raise your hand to come. Rejoin the meeting. When selecting audio, choose the option to have the system call you and input the phone number you wish to be called on. This option will pair your computer with your phone and will allow you to raise your hand, which a little raise hand button is found down in the right-hand corner, if you wish to comment during the public session.
Thank you, Nora. At this point, is there any member of the public that has any business to be brought to this board that is not on this evening's agenda? Any hands, Nora?
No hands raised.
Okay, can we go into the resolutions? Can all the same people vote on these three resolutions?
Yes, all this.
Okay. Someone want to move these three resolutions? Please, someone move them.
I move for the adoption of applications number 19:67, application 20:46, and application 20:41.
Second.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Berkowitz. Oh, it's not here.
Is he present?
No, he's not present yet.
Can you guys hear me?
Can now.
Now we can.
Disappeared for a minute.
Joskowitz,
Yes.
Kaplan,
Yes.
Yes.
Prasad,
Yeah.
Reddy,
Yes.
Willens,
Yes.
Ira Kane.
Yes. Okay, we have correspondence from Simone Cowley of Cowley Law requesting application 2020 be carried to April 21st. Is this the one where there's a pre-existing condition or this is new construction? This is new construction, right?
It's a pre-existing condition.
Tell them if it's a pre-existing condition and they keep delaying, is it without a bona fide reason for delaying, they're going to have to come on the 21st to be heard. Okay, Nora?
She emailed Mr. King. She questioned the situation coming up, whether or not they needed a use variance, and the answer was yes. And for that reason, they needed to be carried in order to submit the D or use paperwork.
So this is new. This is a new application now. New part to the application.
It will be.
with new notice because of the issue with the D variance.
Okay,
And the
I
trailer.
take back what I said then, all right? Okay, let's see now. Is Mr. Wang present now or not, Nora?
Just give me a moment.
Sure.
Yes, he's present.
Okay, this is a continuation of a case from October 7th. It's a 2019 application. Is the applicant present? No? Is there an attorney on this case or not?
With Mr. Wang?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Easy.
Mr. Wang, are you representing yourself or do you have an attorney?
I represent myself.
Okay. Can everybody hear him now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Any chance we could see him?
Hold on.
No, you can't see him because he went through the attendees and was bumped up.
How about
He's
now?
there now.
Can you see-
I
can you-
see him.
I see him now.
What about my engineer? Is he in?
Your engineer, is he here? Is he present?
He's supposed to. He had a little problem to get in before I had a problem too.
That's Fred Viola, correct?
Yes. Nora, he said he was going to call you. Did he call you?
We have someone from IT calling him.
You want to move on to the second case and then we'll come back to this one?
Yes, let's do that.
Thank you.
All right, application 2022, Ansa Nazir. This is for a fence application on Lakeshore Drive. The applicant here?
Yes, I'm here.
If my memory serves me correct,
Yes, you did.
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to swear in the witness? Ma'am, could you raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to give before the board is true so help you God?
Yes.
And are you the owner of the subject property, 348 Lakeshore Drive?
Yes, I am.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the witness is sworn.
okay, I'm sorry, I was on mute. I was talking, but I couldn't, guess nobody could hear me because I was on mute. If my memory serves me correct, this case was carried so that you could come with the contractor who put this fence up. Where do we stand with that?
I have not been able to get a hold of the contractor. His phone number no longer works. I have made several calls. He's nowhere to be found.
Ma'am, it was my understanding this was a family friend.
It was not a
Friend of-
family friend. A friend of mine had mentioned his name, and I had reached out to him. He works out of New York, but I cannot get a hold of him. His phone number will not work.
I remember that from last time. It was a family friend who recommended this person, and there was no way
It
to
was
get a hold of him.
cousin's contact or something.
No, it was a friend, a coworker that I used to work with. She had recommended him, and I reached out to him. He came in, he looked at the property. He said he can get it done in 2 days. And when I received the letter, I reached out to him. He did pick up the phone that once, But since then, I have not been able to get a hold of him. It seems that that number is not in service anymore.
Mr. Chairman, I think we were given the time for her to get a hold of the contractor, so he might give some testimony or she might get some relief from him. That's why we did it. So, point being, if
That's
he's not
correct.
available, I don't know how we proceed with that, so.
Any other information or any other testimony you want to give us?
I do not.
Any members of the public who have any questions on this witness? Any hands, Nora?
There are no hands raised.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application? In support of this application? Any hands, Nora?
No hands raised.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go into conference?
So moved.
Second,
Is there a
Jaskowitz.
second? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Someone want to start the conference?
If I remember correctly, it really did seem kind of shady at the time. And I think the story kind of modified a little bit as it went on. And we weren't sure of what the attempts that were made to really track down this guy. That it seemed like in the beginning, there was a stronger connection to the person who did the work. And then as the testimony continued, it got a little fuzzy. And I'm leaning toward a no on this because it goes back to an issue that Nancy has said in the past about, not asking for permission and begging for forgiveness. And, there's a point where it's enough. And I think I've hit that point for me.
Someone want to go next?
Yes, Mr. Miola needs to mute. I agree with Mr. Jaskowitz. To me, getting or understanding that you need a permit for a fence and there's some guidelines for fences is like property ownership 101. And I would like to see more evidence of an attempt to contact the contractor. I mean, we didn't see any returned postage, return receipt letters. It was just, it's all word of mouth. And, as nice as the applicant is, I do feel badly that we're in this position, but, fence permits isn't unique to Parsippany. They're not unknown. And for that reason, I'm a no vote.
Oh, shit, sorry. Mr. Willis? Am I being
Yeah,
heard or
I'm
not?
sorry, try to get unmuted. Yeah, I believe that we gave the applicant due time to build a stronger case or give us some additional information on which to work right now. All we have is the fact that she did not get a permit. She built a fence that's way beyond the code approved. And for us to say the contractor was at fault when he's nowhere around, I don't think that we can approve this application on that term. So I will be voting no at this time on the application.
Mr. Prasad, will you go ahead?
Mr. Chairman, can we give the applicant some more time to sort this out and make any possible suggestion to help remedy the situation in view of the kid that she has, a needy child, from what I recall?
How would that be different than what we did back in November?
Mr. Prasad, I know the applicant's claim was she put the fence up for her son who needed protection. However, the fence is only in the front of the house. It's not in the back of the house. The whole back of the house is open. So that, was a good story. Unfortunately, unless you went to the property and looked at it, you could see that's not the case. So, who's next? Who hasn't gone?
This is Casey. This is Casey.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel the same way that we are back to where we were on first time when we heard the application. Really, there is no other progress from the applicant side, and I see the need for it, but the fence was built without any permits or anything, and only thing I will say is maybe give the applicant another chance to find out something more instead of just saying no tonight. That's my feeling.
Yeah, this is
Not to interrupt, but if I do remember correctly, I even suggested like call 99 My Side or one of these, news services that have these guys that go and find these corrupt people, and I guess that wasn't followed as well.
Sir, I have tried to dial even from my workplace to see, like, not from the same number. His number no longer works. I cannot get a hold of him. I do not have an address information. I shared that the last time. I really went with the word of mouth. I trusted the guy. I thought he was giving me the right information. This is my first time buying a home. I was doing the right thing for my son for the safety. And I just I wasn't aware of the permit, and he told me for the fence, you do not need a permit. I'm just asking if you, all of you can make an exception and help me out here. I cannot get a hold of the guy. His phone does not work. That's my only way of communicating with him.
Mr. Reddy, did you say anything?
yeah, I see there's a lot of hardship going through the applicant, especially with the kids need special needs kind of thing. But however, applicant should have gone through proper contractors and they should have approached the township regarding the requirements and all. Sorry, but I'm really, I feel sorry. We have to make it correct to the code.
Mr. Sir, may I ask if you have, you're aware that a 6-foot solid fence is not in code and cannot be approved, and you didn't get proper permits, you would not. Do you have another possible solution to this problem you'd like us to consider at this time?
I do not have a solution. Like, I know that you had mentioned the last time it would have to be corrected if, like, I'm not sure what to say. If that's the route I have to go, then that's what I have to go. But I do see, I had mentioned the last time that my 2 corner neighbors, one of them have a 6-foot solid fence, and the other one has a 5 feet solid fence with 1 feet see-through. So I know that you had mentioned it has to be 4 feet with 50% see-through. So I'm totally confused because I have 2 neighbors in the both corner properties on the opposite side of me with the same kind of fence.
Unfortunately, this board does not look at that as an excuse just if somebody else did something wrong that doesn't let you do something wrong. Besides that, in some cases, fences are put up. In many cases, fences are put up without permits, and unfortunately, our enforcement group cannot go around and cite everyone. I knew immediately when I saw your fence that it was not permissible fence. I don't know how you got to this point. Wasn't me. I didn't report you. But unfortunately, I think you're going to have to come up with some middle of the road. Either move the fence back a little bit, come up with some plan, or we're going to deny it. So what would you like to do? I think there's enough votes here to deny your application. So what would you like to do at this point? You want to move the fence back to a more, and then take whatever fence you take out and put it on the back so you get the coverage for your son. You would accomplish two things. What do you want to?
You said that my option would be moving it back. So moving it back means how much I have to move back.
If you want us to carry this case tonight, you got to promise the next time you come to a meeting, you're going to come with an alternative plan.
I understand
An
that, but
alternative plan, I would talk to the zoning officer, any one of the zoning officers, and ask them for a little bit of assistance in putting out a new layout. You know, I'm sorry that you put this fence up with a less than admirable contractor, and unfortunately, there's a lot of them running around. This man was from New York, probably didn't even have a license to do business in New Jersey. So you have to tell me you're going to come back with a plan that's going to satisfy us, something less than what you have right now.
so I have to reach out to the zoning officer, try to find out, like, if I move it back, how much feet I have to move it back. That would be one of the options. And I'm sorry, we kept on going in and out. What was my second option?
We deny it, and you take the fence down.
Okay, and I would need some sort of information, like to reach out to the zoning officer. Do I come back to the same office? That's what I have to do?
If I can
Nora, how
interrupt
did you
here a
get it?
moment, what you would have to do is call the zoning department. Anybody there can help you. Ellie, if you have to go in, you'll make an appointment to go in. The doors are locked at town hall. Everything right now is by appointment.
Okay. And I would ask them to give me advice on what's the best way to kind of go from here on.
What they will do is tell you what the zoning ordinance requires as far as a 6-foot solid fence, which would have to be out of the front yard setback. And I know you have you're on a corner lot there. In the end, you're probably going to be told that it's the decision of the board. I don't know if you could cut off a top part of the top and put in a lattice part. Another thought.
She should probably either contact an attorney and get some legal advice as to what is legal. That attorney can speak to the zoning department if she really wants to see this through with an alternative plan other than taking it down.
Or get a reputable fence company to come in and tell you what they can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I could reach out to the zoning department and get their advice. I can also try to reach out to a fence company and ask for their advice. Legally, am I able to do, is it a 4 feet? Is it a 5 feet? What am I able to do? Like, to fix this right now?
You're allowed to do 4 feet, 50% open. That's what you're allowed to do, okay? Anything beyond that, you have to come and ask us for a variance to do it, okay? That's all you're allowed, 4 feet, 50% open. Now, again, if you mitigate the situation to an extent, maybe removing the one that's in the front of your house and moving it back a little bit and then just leaving the one on the side. I'm just throwing you out possibilities, but I'm not a fence guy. And I don't know how the construction was done. Is it in concrete? Is it I don't know. So I think you this is homework you should have been doing for the last umpteen months. I think this case was first heard when we were still holding meetings, wasn't it, Nora?
I believe so, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so are you asking us to carry the case so that you have some time to come up with an alternative plan since you're never going to find this contractor?
Yes, please.
And you're going to speak to either an attorney or a local reputable fencing contractor?
I'm first
Or
going to
both?
be reaching out to the zoning board and get their advice. And whatever they tell me, I'll go from there. I don't think I'm looking to hire an attorney, and I would get advice from a contractor, a reputable contractor, and have some sort of contract information or like a written notice of what can be done and bring that back to you.
In order for, if we're going to carry this again for essentially the exact same reason we carried this the first time, I do want an assurance that you're going to come back with something other than I just spoke to the zoning office, because there's only so much they're going to be able to tell you. And I think Nora hinted at that.
Yeah, the zoning,
I would
the zoning
recommend
officer is
the
going
fence
to
guy
tell
with
you
you.
exactly what you can do. He's not going to give you a whole hell of a lot of advice. He'll tell you what you can do. And then you can go from what you can do legally to what you have and come up with a plan. And again, I encourage you to hire a local fence contractor, someone that can help you out and possibly come and testify at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
We just need to
Do I
carry
have a
this,
motion to carry this case?
and
To
she has,
Nora Wink?
Mr. Chairman, she would have to give all extensions and
Yeah, you
etc.
will provide us with whatever extensions necessary.
Yes.
Nora, when can we carry the case to?
I have room May 5th.
May 5th. Is that
Okay.
okay, Ms. Messer?
Thank you.
Yes? I have a motion to carry this case to May 5th with no further notice, but with whatever proper extensions we need.
So moved, Willens.
Second, Eddie.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
Is Wang application, or is the, Mr. I see Mr. Neola, so he's here, okay. Can we go ahead with that?
And is this the Mr. Wang?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm testimony you're about to give before the board true so help you God?
Yes,
And for the record, you're the owner of 1010 Vale Road.
yes,
Okay, and you have an expert. You can drop your hand. You have an expert, an engineer,
yes,
and he's going to provide testimony, correct?
yes.
And what's the name of your expert?
Fred Miola.
Fred Miola. Fred, if you could please raise your right hand. Swear or affirm testimony you're about to give before the board's true self.
Yes, I do.
And for the record, you're a licensed engineer.
Yes. You need to mute your mic because you got background noise.
All your licenses are in full force and effect. And you've been
Yes,
before this board and other boards. Mr. Chairman, he's a qualified engineer.
thank you.
Hey, Irene, can you mute that?
Okay, who's gonna begin?
Okay, I'm sorry. I missed the last statement. If you want, I can kind of go through what,
You've been qualified. You've been qualified. Now the applicant can either talk about this or he could call you. It's your applicant's, it's your case.
okay. Let me explain to the board where we're at and what we've done. Are you getting any background from me?
Do you have a TV on or something?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to, hang on, give me 1 second. Irene, you gotta mute it. Turn it.
This is okay?
No, mute it completely. Or you can use the bedroom one. Okay, sorry, gentlemen.
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Wang had contacted me. I'm trying to think, we were here back in September originally. I went out and looked at the site. The whole rear yard is basically pool and paver patio. Some of the residents had concerns at the time. So after reviewing it with Mr. Wang and looking at the site, I think I came up with a reasonable suggestion that may satisfy everyone. What I suggested to Mr. Wang is take the patio area that's along the northerly property line, bring it into your property about 3 feet. That'll allow me to have enough room to put a French drain with stone with perforated pipe. So as the water comes off the patio area, it's not going to continue going through other people's property. We can then catch that water and bring it to a dry well that we'll install in front of the existing shed, so that we would catch all the water coming off the patio and stop it from going haphazardly to the other neighbor's property. Mr. Wang's patio is, I would estimate, 12 to 16 inches above the surrounding ground. Should point out, Mr. Wang told me, and you can get the confirmation from Mr. Wang, because his shed was in violation, he's moved it so the shed is now 5 feet and 5 feet off the property line. So the shed has changed from the survey we did. So that would be my suggestion to try to resolve the problem.
So, Mr. Miola, have you submitted new drawings and new applications for this plan?
No, I did a letter to everyone explaining what we're willing to do.
It's kind of nice to write a letter, but we'd like to see it, so, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of been talking to Mr. Wang about it. You know, he's just concerned about spending the money if he doesn't know where he's going.
When you say everybody, did you send it to the town engineer?
I sent them Mr. Wang, because he picked them up. I thought he brought them to Nora, but I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to say that.
I did receive the PDF version as the board engineer, so I can't speak for the township engineer. But I do have a copy, and I do have a couple questions.
Okay. If we can get Mr. Wang to explain where he brought the letter, I assume he's still on.
Mr. Wang, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Mr. Miola asked you a question. When you brought the letters to town hall, who did you give them to?
I'm sorry, what's a letter?
The letter that I prepared describing what we're going to do on the property, Mr. Wang.
I forwarded to Nora.
And I forwarded it to the board. I think it went out today because I only received the letter today.
The email was sent.
So obviously the town engineer has not seen this letter.
Yeah, I got your email, Nora, today, so I have it.
Mr. Holloway, you take the lead on this one and help us out.
Absolutely. I received the copy of the letter from Nora this afternoon. And my initial first reaction is, yes, I'd like to see a plan, but also we normally have a plan with some grades on it. We don't have any grades to deal with. And we don't know what the water table is out there. We don't know if the soils are compatible or not. I strongly recommend that a soil test be done before anything be adopted or considered. Change the plans and where things are going. And as part of this, I would consider putting some of the roof drainage into the dry well that's compatible, to take some of the roof drainage into that also, if it's a drainage issue in this part of the community.
Okay, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I will talk to Mr. Wang. You know, I had suggested to him even before this meeting that we try to get a soil test out there so we know exactly what our parameters are going to be. So,
So Wayne, you created this problem and you're gonna have to spend some money to fix it. So I hope it's not a terrible financial burden on you, but you're affecting your neighbor's peaceful right to their property if water is draining onto their property. And Mr. Miola is gonna come up with a plan. You're gonna have to follow through on all the aspects of it. You understand that?
I've got a comment too, Mr. Chairman. You're going to be asked to give relief to the lot coverage. And it would seem to me that Mr. Miola should calculate what is above and beyond what is allowed in order to determine how much of a drainage system would be needed for that excess area. Otherwise, there is no drainage system required. Some way of measuring the relief being sought. Just a 3-foot strip down the side of the property to me doesn't give you any basis for a decision.
And Mr. Chadwick, wasn't the other big issue here on impervious coverage? I think that's what you're getting at.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
entitled to a certain amount.
Right, exactly.
He's covered the whole property, but for the front yard.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Mr. Miola, he has to come closer to compliance with the impervious coverage issues. And
yeah, the plan that we did that I think we came in with back in September, the maximum building coverage, including pavement and building in this zone is 30%. Mr. Wang is at 59.7. So he's approximately double what's allowed.
Does he have a conforming lot, Mr. Miola?
Yes, the minimum lot area is 15,000 and Mr. Wang's lot is 16,700.
I would recommend that the soil test and the plan be submitted, showing that there are proper grades for its being drained to the right appurtenance.
so, Mr. Holloway, the drainage is one thing, but I would also ask Mr. Miola and Mr. White to make a proposal on how they can improve or reduce greatly the impervious coverage, okay? It's double what it's allowed right now, and that needs to be improved as well for me to get a yes vote, so just put it out there.
I agree with you, Mr. Willens. This is
Mr. Miola, you will
egregious.
have drawings for us at the next meeting? Something to look at?
Yes, I will talk to Mr. Wang and assuming he gives me the go-ahead, we will have drawings for you.
Mr. Wang, do you understand without drawings and something for us to look at for Mr. Miola to create, you're not going to get approval? So you need to do that. You understand that, Mr. Wang?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Are you in
Yes,
agreement to do that?
Yes, but I would like to allow me 1 minute to say something about this whole situation, if you don't mind.
What do you have to say, Mr.?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Wang.
Go ahead.
Okay, I would like to briefly, tell everyone, I know it's been over 2 years because this pandemic, every problem that every family goes through this, I'm one of those, okay? I want to give you the full scope of the whole thing, okay? First of all, when I purchased the property at 2003. And the whole, if we talk about until, right now, I know, okay, the percentage was allowance about 30% or 50%. When I bought this property, it's already over 30%. Okay, all it did is really order pattern, towards my.
Mr. Viola, can you stop with the papers?
Sorry.
Please mute your phone if you're not speaking.
Mr. Wang, you should continue now.
Okay, all right. Anyway, what I meant is, when I purchased the property, this is way over 30%. It's not like 50% all built by myself. I want to make one clear over there. Number two, my backyard neighbor, which is connection with my neighbor, that if you look at the map, you know that he has my backyard. The previous owner, who's an older couple, lived there. We never had a problem with. And this patio was built on 2015. And the new neighbor moved in on 2016. For a new neighbor complained because for my patio extension build caused his yard flood, it wasn't true. Understand, this is oversized. We have to deal with that. That was the last couple of meetings. The first thing that were decided is, the board is going to send town engineer to do the survey, to do the, and the town engineer came over saying this is not their job. You should have own engineer. So that's why the third hearing, when went there, asked me about the engineer report, saying that wasn't that was not the decision made by the second hearing. So the hearing was made by the township, so the township sent the engineer, to the yard. So that's why the third hearing saying, look, Mr. Wang, you got to hire an engineer. That's why I hired Mr. Miola to do this job for me. But after that, the pandemic happened, all this. So yes, what my point to make is that my yard is higher than my neighbor's yard to start with, and his yard is always has a water problem. Always had a water problem. That's why the previous owner never come to the second half of the yard, which is close to my yard. This new resident moved in on 2016 after the patio extension built. So for him, there's no before and after. To put the blame on me, said what? Because my patio extension is not true. As a matter of fact, after he made a complaint, he built his own drain system. Now he has no yard at all whatsoever. So again, this whole case extended for over 2 years. In the last 2 years, a lot of things have been changed. But again, I respect, I'm willing to resolve it as the best we can. And that's why, I'm a small business owner. I have no income through this pandemic. Okay, it's hard enough, but I'm the person who's willing to do the right thing. And that's the reason that I couldn't, without you guys, some sort of approval. I have no money to pay Mr. Miola to do further plan. So again, in my case, the overage is being, it's a history. It's not created by myself, completely created by myself. Is number one. Number two, I'm willing to do the right thing, but also I want the board, considering the financial situation and everything about this, try to, again, I'm willing to do every right thing to do, but I just want to make, hope the court to make the things, economically reasonable so I can pass through this. But as far as concerning about, in fact, my neighbor's life, if any of you guys stop by my yard, you guys could see whatever my patio is not affect my neighbor's life. That's what I'm trying to say. As far as if the board considering I could, Mr. Mueller could go ahead and do the plan. I do my best to work out. I'm sure, Mr. Mueller has given me some sort of break and work with me. He's been very nice to me. So that's all I'm saying here.
Mr. Wang, I don't think anybody in these times wants you to spend money frivolously. However, the patio is there. The coverage issue is a real issue, right? The water drainage issue is a real issue. And we can't make a determination without Mr. Miola's input and without what our engineer and maybe what the town engineer is going to need. So it's unfortunate that you might have to spend money for it, but the town didn't build that patio, you did.
You're correct. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. So if that's, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I won't do it. I'm just explaining because it's been, you guys are all busy and the things drag too long. You guys probably forget what happened before. That's why I'm saying I'm just to give, easy to everyone to understand. That's all I'm saying. You totally misunderstanding me. You sound like, I think you thought what I'm saying is I don't want to do anything. No, I do everything I could. I just want to, be, everyone aware of the, the situation. Then that's all I'm saying here. By the way, all you're saying is correct.
Mr. Wang, the drawings is necessary to help us understand the nature of what we're looking at here to make an informed decision on your application.
Okay, fine. I accept it. Again, like I said, Mr. Mueller could not be, nicer to me. So I'm sure he's going to, work with me to come up with a plan to satisfy the everyone here.
So where do we go from here? Mr. King, do you have any suggestions? Mr. Chadwick, do you have any suggestions?
Well, it sounded to me like the applicant said he didn't have the money to do anything, and I think that this is going to be a costly proposition. So he may either want to withdraw this application and refile it and come back with proper plans or some way to resolve this. This is the third application tonight where it seems like the applicant is not prepared and we're just kicking it down the road. We have a lot of other applications, and I don't want to run into any type of Campbell issue where we bend over backwards for an applicant, and then what happens is they use that against us.
I want to get the feeling for the board to give this gentleman 60 days to come back with a plan. I think that's about as much we can do in this case.
And we need to have the applicant provide all extensions, etc.
I'm not sure what's
the board's favor here. What are we gonna?
Before you come,
I personally,
excuse me, we have a couple of people with hands raised on this, and one of the people has pictures he would like to share. The neighbor of the applicant, they've attended every meeting, and they're the ones being affected by this.
Well, if we're not going to vote on this approval or anything like that, we're going to have to give the applicant an opportunity to provide additional information. So, Mr. Wang, you said we have a tendency, we don't forget your previous testimonies, I think you can see. And we're not trying to be hard-nosed here, but every time you've come here, it's had a bit of a different story. So we understand the hardship. We're trying to work with you. I hope you understand that. And Mr. Miola, I hope you can help him. But if we give an extension here for you to come back with a plan that we can review that might alleviate this situation, it best be there, or we're going to have to deny it. You're going to start all over.
I just want to get a reminder.
I said several times, I said I will work with Mr. Miola to come up with a plan. I don't know why my speech got misunderstood. Yes, I said the whole night been saying I will work with Mr. Miola to come up with a plan.
Sir, you've had about,
You had enough time to come up with a plan. And I hope you are not playing this board as a delay tactic to keep kicking this can down the road. Mr. Chair, I mean, as much as I think 60 days is way too generous, I guess I'll agree to it, to act in good faith. But I'm really my patience is growing thin in regards to this application because it just seems like delay after delay after delay after delay.
What I need to understand is if you don't have the money to, retain him, Mr. Miola, for these additional reports, how are you going to have the money to build all of this?
I have to come up with a plan.
But
You knew you
it's
needed
not
a
my money
plan.
to spend, but if you don't have the money for the reports, where are we going with this?
Nora, you said that there's some people who want.
I think
to present
Mr. Miola has.
Can you hold on a second, Mr. Wang? Nora, you said there's some people here that want to give us pictures. This is not the time for testimony by members of the public. We haven't completed the case. If they have questions of Mr. Wang, they can ask him the questions. But am I correct, Mr. King? This is not the time for.
yes, this is not the time for them to put in any evidence. After Mr. Wang has finished his case, then they can put in evidence. Once Mr. Wang is done with one of his witnesses, the members of the audience can ask questions of that witness so they could prepare their case either for or against this application. That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, is it also fair to say that the next time that the onus is on the applicant to have whatever drawings, experts, or whatever he needs to present this case? Because not only is it taking up our time, but I would assume that the people online are objectors. It's taking up their time. It needs to be resolved, and the onus is on him to have everything ready so that we can make a decision on his application at the next meeting.
That is a strong point.
Mr. Is it Mr. Miola or Mr. Wang? Is there anything else you want to add tonight?
Wait, hello?
Yes, is there anything else you want to add?
I will make the plan based on I will have Mr. Miola, come with the detailed plan regarding for the draining system and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Mr. Irakane, I'm fine with it. I heard what Mr. Chaz Holloway said. I heard what the board is concerned. I am going to make suggestions to Mr. Wang, and hopefully we can kind of put a plan that everybody is going to be acceptable for. So I have no problem.
And as part of it, I hope you can knock down the percentage of the impervious coverage.
Yeah, I'm going to see what I can do with it. I may make some suggestions to Mr. Wang. And I'm also going to tell him that we got to get a machine out there to do that soil test so that everybody's comfortable that the system is going to work properly.
That's what I was going to say, that the soil test will definitely help us to make a decision.
Drainage too.
Is this all acceptable to the board? I know it's not a perfect situation, but I think in all the years I've been on the board, I've never encountered a situation like this. And obviously, this is the first pandemic we've lived through. So, I have a motion to carry this case to when, Norm?
So moved.
With all extensions, Mr. Chairman, please.
May 5th.
May 5th, with extensions, with no further notice.
So move, Snyder.
Now, I'm gonna, before, Jaskowitz. Do the members of the public have any questions to be asked at this time, Nora?
Questions?
Yes, because there was testimony tonight.
Okay. Art Silverman, I see has his hand up. Go ahead, Art.
Good evening. I've come to all of these meetings. I am a resident around the corner from Mr. Wang. I have nothing personally against him. I did prepare extensively for this meeting, and I've prepared in the past for other meetings. And no offense to you people that take your time out for this, but I kind of resent that I haven't had the opportunity to present the case, the additional things. People are not taking into consideration the other factors that are involved here. This is not a groundwater only situation. The town has known, I bought this house for my parents, so I know when this development was built. The town was clear, sorry, the town was clearly aware that there was an underground spring.
Mr. Silverman?
Excuse me, sir. I don't want a history of the town tonight, okay? I was very clear in saying, do you have a question for this man? If you don't have a question for this man, you're gonna have to play by the rules. The rules say,
okay,
once the applicant has completed his case, you can present whatever evidence that you would like. Now, I'm gonna ask you again, do you have a question for Mr. Wang or Mr. Miola?
Mr. Miola, have you taken into consideration the known underground spring that was let out on 1010 Vale Road, in addition to 35 Haddonfield and 1012 Vale Road? And that is by them blocking the flow of the water is in violation of NJAC 7:8 stormwater management. And also, have you, Mr. Miola, taken into consideration that the blockage of the flow is in violation of Armstrong versus Francis Corporation, a New Jersey Supreme Court case which dealt with the blockage of stormwater and how it would affect the neighbors' properties?
Okay, Mr. Silverman, to start, I was unaware of any underground spring. If you have any information on it, if you would be willing to share it with me, I'd be happy to look into it. And I agree with you, you don't want to block off the flow of water anywhere. But I was unaware of any underground spring. Now, it may pop, when we do the permeability test, it may pop up because we may see it. But, you know, I was unaware of it.
Okay, well, the problem is that,
Mr.
you know,
I don't want to know about the problem,
picture of
Mr.
this.
Silverman. I want another question, or we'll call
Okay.
it.
Okay, Mr. Miola, are you aware that the blockage on 1010 Vale and 35 Haddonfield, adding additional topsoil, has now flooded my property because there was a few exits for the stormwater in the backyards here, and when they
Mr. Miola,
blocked.
you're not aware of any of this, are you? No.
Okay.
You're aware
No,
of
I'm
this,
not.
Mr. Silverman.
I would appreciate it.
Any other questions, Mr. Silverman?
No, I'll wait until then. I just thought that this is an important extra thing that has not been discussed. Everybody is discussing topical water as opposed to that.
Mr. Silverman,
so,
can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, could you tell?
Answer, you cannot, this is not a question and answer. This is a chance for the public to ask your expert or your witnesses questions. Okay?
Mr.
Anything else?
King?
Can we-
Well, I have one question, Mr. King. Do we need Mr. Wang to put on the record that he agrees to the extensions? It was interrupted.
Yes, he has to agree to the extensions.
Yes,
He has to agree. And either Nora will have him sign a letter or an email saying that he agrees to the extensions. By us just saying we're doing it with extensions is not we have to dot every I and cross every T. So yes.
All right, do we have a motion to carry this case to when?
Moskowitz makes a motion.
Snyder, second.
When are we carrying it to, Nora?
May 5th.
May 5th, without notice, but with a written extension from the applicant. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
And Mr. Wang has agreed on the record to those extensions, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go to Lake Hiawatha Dairy, application 2013. D variance, legalized sign.
I'm trying to unmute.
Is there an attorney on this case?
Yes. Yes. I can't unmute.
I can hear you.
You can hear me? This is Tom Blockian?
This is John Pascarella.
Okay. I can't unmute.
We hear you.
You are unmuted.
Oh, but is my video on? It's okay. I don't know what's going on here.
Scott, any comments?
Oh.
We can see you and hear you, John.
Steve
That was the lawyer talking.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. If somebody can help start my video. Can you hear me now?
Steve, see, we can hear you. We cannot see you. You have to enable your video camera.
I'm trying. The button won't work, Peter.
Okay, so maybe, I don't know. Who's our...
This is IT?
Yes.
IT. I think he may have low bandwidth. That might be the reason why his video won't start. But if he can continue with no video, that should probably work.
Okay. I'll try. I mean, it's just the button won't allow me to start the video. But anyway, my witnesses are here and you can see them, and that's what matters. So it's been quite an evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll start the case because we need to change the taste of this meeting to something a little sweeter. Stephen Tom Balakian, attorney from Wiener Law Group, on behalf of the John and Karen Pascarella, who do their business as the Lake Hiawatha Dairy. I believe this store needs no introduction to members of the board or residents of Parsippany, but the location's at 79 North Beverwick Road at the corner of Hiawatha, and it's block 601, lot 2, within the B5 zone. And we're here tonight because about a year and a half ago, there was like a compliance inspection by the building inspector or the zoning inspector, not sure which, and Mr. Pascarella was asked, well, where are your permits for all the signs you have on both facades and windows, and where's your permit for the neon signage, etc.? And there was no paperwork that Mr. Pascarella could provide. So the understanding was that we would come before the zoning board and seek to legitimize the signage that Mr. Pascarella has installed at his shop over the years. And you're going to hear from Mr. Pascarella, you're going to hear about how old some of these signs are, as well as the purpose for the signs. And then after Mr. Pascarella, you're going to hear from planner John McDonough, who you're well familiar with. John has planning exhibits. He's going to walk through and run through the planning rationales to hopefully allow the board to agree that Mr. Pascarella can keep these signs as installed. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Mr. King to swear in both John Pascarella and John McDonough.
Peter, you're muted. You're muted, Pete.
I'm sorry. Gentlemen, just raise your right hands. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give before the board's true self you got?
I do.
Mr.
I do.
Mr. Dunna, all your licenses are in full force and effect.
Yes.
You've been qualified before this board and other boards in the state of New Jersey.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the witnesses are qualified. The one is, and the other one has been sworn as a fact witness.
Okay. John McDonough, since you're our presenter of the exhibits, can you please screen share your planning exhibit package and go to the 5th page, which is begins the photographs of the store. And then we'll have Mr. Pascarella identify the signs that are at issue here. Terrific. Now, Mr. Pascarella, how long have you been associated with the Lake Hiawatha Dairy?
I built it 31 years ago.
Okay, and before it was Lake Hiawatha Dairy, was it a Carvel shop?
It was a Carvel shop for the first 10 years.
Okay. Now, from the picture, and John is going to zoom in or turn to the next slides, and for purposes of the record, Mr. McDonough's exhibit package we'll call Exhibit 1, and then we'll just refer to the slides. There's 16 slides. So, okay, let's take a look. Please describe this side. This is the Hiawatha Boulevard side of the store. Explain what these signs are and why do you have them?
Well, the side sign there that is above the window has always had a sign there, even when it was Thompson Glass before me 31 years ago. We replaced it about 10 years ago. I was told by the sign company I didn't need approvals because it was basically just replacing what was already there of approximately the same size and so forth. The sign in the window was installed because if you've ever looked in our window, it looks right into the store down at the girls who are bending over, scooping at the dipping cabinet for hard ice cream. And they communicated to me they felt a little, the young men would hang out there. They just felt a little invaded of the privacy. So we put that up. And we thought it was more attractive both inside and outside. It also helped promote selling of cakes too, but was more tasteful than just keeping blinds there and closing them. So that's the thought between the two signs.
Great. Now, John, can you flip to the next slide that shows the front facade of the store? Okay, well, let's stop there. Maybe we'll talk about that's on the same facade. Now, they're not lit, Mr. Pasquale, but can you identify some neon type signs that are on the Hiawatha Boulevard window facade?
Right, so the windows are outlined in neon, as you can see the tube going around the window, and then the frozen yogurt sign is there too. And both the front, just as in what I'll say for the front sign too, so I'll kill two birds with one stone, is that this neon was installed 31 years ago. It was installed the day we were open, and it's kind of unique in that it's gas filled. So versus today's LED lighting. And so it gives a very soft light rather than the intense typical neon lighting, as I'm sure most of you know already.
Great. And Mr. Pasquale, when you installed or you had these neon signs installed, did you think back then that these were either permitted or you got whatever paperwork you needed to install these types of signs? Was that even an issue for you?
I believe with all my heart, and I would swear on my life that we had all signs permitted. Back then, the Parsippany Zoning Board and the Building Department were no easier than they are today. They were quite, they made sure all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. Mrs. Zimzicki ran that department with an iron fist, and it was my understanding, and I remember filling out the paperwork. It's just after 31 years and we had a flood in our basement, I don't have the physical paperwork in hand. But that was my understanding that everything was approved and okayed. And every inspection that we got from beginning to end, okayed them. And in fact, in somewhere 1991, there was an update to the neon lighting law, I believe. And the mayor then told me not to worry. I felt I was within the boundaries and that and that we would be grandfathered. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I don't mean to extend that conversation to be debated about your supervision in any way, but it was our full intent and knowledge that we were not violating any rules.
Okay, and these neon signs, when they're lit up, particularly during dusk or evening hours, do you believe it adds charm and attractiveness to your store?
Well, not only, yes, I do, and not only do I, but the customers, there's been some time going on because of the pandemic. And may I say, I'm proud to say that we have not been closed one day. We did that because it was important to us to give the community normalcy. But when we ask people about the signage, we believe it's charming. When we sat down with the mayor, he had his professionals there who said it was charming. But a rule's a rule, and I appreciate the opportunity to still be allowed to keep it.
Okay. Now, Mr. Pasquale, Mr. McDonough has turned to page 10 of Exhibit 1, which shows the Beverwick side of the store. There's some neon signs, there's some other signs. Can you go through and explain what those signs are and why you would like to keep them?
Yeah, so to the extreme, everybody's left is the open sign, which is very soft. It doesn't blink. We keep it on. And so that's a typical open sign from Restaurant Depot. The cake sign is a unique sign that dates back to the beginning of my Carvel days. It represents a cake, really, although most people think it's a sundae. But in either case, very little of that sign is really illuminated. What you see in the glass part is exactly what's illuminated: the square, the outside oval of the top of the cake, and a couple lines to indicate sprinkles. But it's not overwhelming, and as I hope everyone has seen in our many years.
Great, thank you. Now, in addition to these, John McDonough, can you show a slide that shows the main store facade sign, the pink one? It's up top. There it is. Okay, so that is your main sign. I don't believe there's any issue with that sign, but of course you would like to keep that sign as installed, Mr. Pasquarella?
Yeah, that sign was installed at the very beginning. I remember doing the permits and it being approved, but we did change the glass frontage both in 1991 and in 2010, I believe, 2011. Because of wear and age. And again, it's my bad. Ignorance is not a pass, but the sign company said because we weren't changing the frame in any way, they just slip it in and slip it out, that an approval wouldn't be needed. And I apologize to the board and the town for that mistake.
Great. That's all the questions I have for Mr. Pasquarella.
Oh, geez, I typed about 4 pages, 11 minutes to speak about. I guess I'll just keep quiet.
If we can avoid that, given how, anyway, if the board has any questions for Mr.
Pasquarella,
Yes, sir.
I was somewhat of a neighbor to you for 34 years, so I know your property quite well. My office is just down the block a little bit. I probably pass your store 500 times a year at least. I have no problem with the sign, the side yard sign. I think that's nice. You got to take that one out of the window. Come on, put the lines up, put smoke glass or something like that. You don't need a second sign underneath that big sign. That's just overkill, really overkill. The front stuff, it looks nice. It's attractive. Like I said, I've seen it. I've been in your store hundreds of times. But that window sign on the side, it's too much, and you would need a variance for it.
I understand, sir.
Any other questions by the board?
No, I agree with you, Mr. Chair.
So we're okay with the neon signs because they're not lit? Is that what I'm hearing?
I have no problem with the neon signs because they're decorative and they're not overwhelming. It's kind of it looks very nice at nighttime. I think that's a nice look for the block. Yeah. Believe me, you got a terribly drab street here. This is not Denville. This is not Summit. This is North Beverly Road and Lake Hiawatha. And to have a nice looking frontage on this building like that is definitely a positive. okay? Because you don't have a lot of the store owners that take pride in their store.
Yeah, I mean, I think this lighting gives a vintage ice cream shop feel to it. As a matter of fact, I really like the lighting. The only thing I didn't like about the one storefront shot was the extreme left where it looked like a little bulletin board against the glass with all the papers stuck on it. But other than that, I agree with Mr. Chair, the chair. The light is very aesthetically pleasing.
Any other questions or comments by the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just have a comment. I passed around that store quite often. I agree with the applicant. The lighting is not overwhelming. I think they look good.
Has the applicant agreed to remove that window sign on the right?
Absolutely. Yes.
The other sign on that wall is very attractive. It's very bright against a beige background.
I have no problem with that upper sign, and it clearly delineates where that building is when you're coming, what's that, southbound? I agree with you. It's that window sign that's overkill, and I'm not sure that the message really needs to be boys are coming here peeping at the girls who are serving them.
Nora, are there any members of the public that have their hands raised to ask questions?
I see we have Art Silverman's hand raised. I don't know if he did not put it down. If we can unmute him.
No, thank you. I'm sorry.
That's the only one, Nora?
That's it. No other hands are raised.
Okay, we're going to hear from the legendary John McDonough now.
Yes, very much.
Legend in his own mind.
Yes. John, since you already have the screen share up, the board knows who you are. You're a local, you know the neighborhood and the store. Why don't you run through your planning presentation?
Sure thing. And I don't think I need to overtalk this one. It's a pretty straightforward application. Your master plan here in Parsippany talks about North Beverick Road as being a special place and especially supporting these businesses on this corridor. Just some key facts that I pulled out from the master plan. Non-office commercial uses make up just 5% of the community, just 5%. Here in Parsippany, this is your master plan. Retail vacancy rates are at 15%, which is double what we see in the county. So basically the retail businesses, they can use help. This is an opportunity to give this valuable corner location some help. Business retention is just as important as business attraction. This is a long-standing use here. I Googled and YouTubed to try to find some vintage photos of this site from the 70s or 80s. Couldn't find them, but I think you have some testimony on the record to give a little predicate that these signs have been here for a long time. And I like the phrase that there's an element of vintage to these signs, of nostalgia. This is sort of a throwback land use that does have a little bit of a retro feel to it. So I think retro signage is appropriate. Also bearing in mind that this is more neighborhood scale retail. So I think neon signs are less offensive than we may see if we were out on the highways where we have more regional land uses. I know a couple of years ago, I did the Buffalo Wild Wings out there, and they actually had a neon sign that wrapped around the entire perimeter of the building. This is something much smaller here, much less impactful. And I think the key point is the master plan, when it talks about North Beverick Road, sort of points to this place as being a special place in the community and really the model for what the community wants to see in terms of Main Street retail, walkable, attractive, unified signage, again, a sense of place, and small scale retail, which is exactly what's happening here. And I think towards the positive side in terms of the balancing, this certainly adds weight to the positive side. I'll throw in there as well, to the extent that neon sign is a non-permitted use, that test would be permitted, that would be passed as well, to the extent that the site is well suitable for neon signage by virtue of the small scale, the corner location, and also just to flip the board through a couple other signs in the downtown as I walked around the area. This just gives a sense of what we see in some of the other businesses in terms of the window signage, in terms of the actual signage on the building itself and your storefronts. And you do see some neon signs there with the Open and the Boar's Head over by the deli. We see it over in the liquor store with the Open sign and the neon. We see it over at the meat market as well, the halal facility. And again, just we do see window signage as being inherent to sort of this downtown feel. So to the extent that part of the negative criteria considers whether this is a substantial departure from the zone scheme or the area, certainly this is not atypical of the area. And I think as one walks down Main Street, in my view, this doesn't even seem perceivable as a variance or a deviation or something out of the norm in compared to what we see out there. So all said, I think certainly the positive criteria are met here for the grant of the relief that the applicant is seeking. This is certainly going to promote a sense of place, a sense of community. It's what this land use wants to be, and will continue this longstanding use at this location. On the negative side, no substantially detrimental impacts. This is not going to be over branding. These are not going to be signs that flash or distract or animate. These are not the type of signs that I think the community wants to discourage. It is not going to be something, again, that would cause any or violate any of the planning purposes of sign control. It's not gaudy. It's not visual clutter. It's not over branding. And in that regard, I believe the relief that the applicant is seeking here is warranted to exceed the 20% window signage. The applicant was seeking that additional sign on the side there. I think there's a rationale to it, but it seems like that's already been vetted. And then the last relief was the neon sign. So again, I think the statutory tests are met and approval is warranted here. I think I can finally stop sharing this screen at this point.
Thank you, John. I have no further questions for Mr. McDonough.
John, you showed us quite a few buildings that have illegal signs. didn't you?
Exactly. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Well, let me give, again, I'm the unofficial historian of North Beverly Road, spending so many years there. Back in the 90s, Mayor Letts commissioned the zoning department to go and create havoc on the businesses on Beverly Road. And I think for every legal sign on buildings, there was 20 that were illegal. And we heard some applications, and some people removed them, and some people took the approach that they weren't going to go along, and they were left alone. In particular, Dr. Santiago had a sign on the side of his building which included a runner, and he told me he wasn't going to take it down, and she walked away. She didn't challenge it. But there, even the by way of history, even the billboard signs that sit on top of Kebab Paradise were there without permits, but they went back so far. John, you probably remember that, right, John? Chadwick? You remember the two billboard signs on the side of the building by Howard's Bakery?
Yep. Yep. I mean, I think everybody understands the street is unique in the town and it needs these kinds of character signs for the various uses.
So, John, I have a question because I'm very supportive of this vibe and their lighting. And to Mr. McDonough's point, it's not only the small scaleness of it, but it's also the softness of the neon lights. My concern is that I don't want all of a sudden North Berwick to start becoming like an Amsterdam where everybody's going to outline their windows. As a matter of fact, that was one of the windows that was shown. I believe those are illegal lights. There are at least not permitted at the bagel shop. And so are we setting a precedent to the point where we're going to have like an explosion? We're letting out the floodgates of everybody doing, putting neon signs all around their windows?
You're not setting a precedent at all. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's an ice cream stand on North Pembroke Road. Is there another ice cream stand on North Pembroke Road?
No, I understand that. But again, I go back to people just putting lights, outlining their windows.
Well, what I think is unique about this is that it the neon lights and the decorations of the layout there is synonymous with ice cream shops, where neon lights are not necessarily synonymous with other types of stores. So that's for me what draws the distinction here. And the only other question I have remaining for myself is, after looking at all those photos, do I want ice cream more, or do I want goat for $8.49 a pound more?
That was the November price.
With all due respect, Ms. Schneider, the thing that we should do is we should task the zoning officer to take a stroll up and down Beverwick Road and get some of these lottery signs and things like that out of the windows that are ugly.
Absolutely.
It's proliferated again, and 20 years have gone by, so.
Absolutely. I've called it to the attention of not only the zoning officer, but members of the council as well.
So maybe you can carry that message, Nora, to the zoning department, that they might be able to spend the day and just stroll down Beverwick Road and see what we can do. Maybe drum up some more business for ourselves. No, I don't want to do that. Okay, is there anything else you guys want to present, Mr.?
No, Chairman, that's our application tonight.
Okay, I'm going to ask again, Nora, any members of the public have any questions at this point?
No hands raised.
Are any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? Any hands?
No hands.
Okay, a couple of people spoke eloquently about why we should do this. Mr. Kaplan and Ms. Schneider, give us a brief overview of why we should approve this.
Listen, the lighting is quite charming. It's vintage ice cream shop. It beautifies the area. This is a very challenged area from a business perspective, as Mr. McDonough clearly outlined in regards to the vacancy and the ratio compared to, county ratios. It's aesthetically pleasing, so I'll be supporting it.
As amended, the applicant did remove the one sign in the window on the side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need any other specific motion, Mr. King, or?
No, I want all the board members and audience, and for the record, to understand this was a amended application. I think Mr. Tom Block, the attorney, will agree that he is removing that one sign, so the application, any zoning does not include that one sign on the side of the building. It includes.
I can confirm that, Mr. King.
Yes, includes.
Okay, and whose motion was that now? Ms. Schneider, would you do the motion? Thank you. Mr. Kaplan, you seconded it? Good.
Well, you want me to just read the motion, or you want me to just go into it, or what? Just application 2013, Lake Hiawatha Dairy, 79 North Beverwick Road, block 601, lot 2, zone B3, that we grant the D variance to legalize signage, provided that there is the full removal of the side window sign of this facility.
Second.
Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Jaskowitz.
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan.
Yes.
Mr. Parikh.
Yes.
Mr. Prasad.
Yes.
Mr. Reddy.
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
Yes.
Mr. Willens.
Yes.
Chairman Aricane.
Yes.
I vote yes also.
Granted, we accomplished something tonight.
You don't want my vote?
Oh.
Didn't realize you were there. Berkowitz.
Been here for a long time.
You were sneaked in or what? I didn't see you there.
I came in the back door.
Okay, Mr. Berkowitz says yes. All right,
Yes.
we go to the next case.
Yes.
Sylvan Campus, 2009, another sign variance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stephen Tombalakian, Wiener Law Group, on behalf of the applicant, 7 Sylvan Way and 8 Campus Drive LLC. It's It's on the business campus, 7 Sylvan, block 202, lot 3.4, which is in the SED 10 zone. And we're looking tonight to for a C variance to install a corporate identification sign. And we just finished the ice cream application. Now we're going to go to Nutella. I'm sure you all know this because you're Parsippany residents, but the U.S. headquarters for the manufacturer of the Nutella hazelnut chocolate spread is right here in Parsippany. Matter of fact, it's right here at 7 Sylvan. And
That was amazing.
so I lucked out. I got ice cream and Nutella.
See, this was the night that we should have had free samples, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Chairman, only one thing I can say, I went on a diet this year, and I looked on the jar of Nutella, how many calories I had. Unfortunately, I had to throw it away. The stuff is great, fantastic. You go to Italy, you put it on everything, but too many calories.
Great, thank you, Chairman. So also tonight, I want to make a formal introduction to one of Parsippany's newest corporate property owners, Onyx Equities. Onyx Equities, within the past several months, purchased a bunch of former Matt Cali properties. And tonight, you're going to be hearing from Kristen Pappas, who's their Senior Vice President of Property Management and Operations. She's going to just briefly go over the Ferraro corporate sign that we'd like to mount. The only reason it needs a variance is because this is the same exact application that this board heard 2 weeks ago for Bopst, North America. The sign, the corporate sign, is located above 25 feet in height, which makes sense given it's an enormous building it's being mounted on. That's the variance. So it's the exact same application that the board just approved for Bopst. So tonight you're going to be hearing from Kristen Pappas, again, a new corporate owner in Parsippany, so we'll welcome her. And then you're also going to be hearing from John McDonough, who's going to run through his planning proofs and explain why it is that the C variance should be granted for the sign. But Mr. King, I'd like to have Ms. Pappas as well as Mr. McDonough sworn in.
Ma'am, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give before the board, true self you God?
I do.
And for the, well, thank you, Mr. McDonough. Ms. Pappas, do you also?
She might be muted.
You're muted.
I'm sorry, ma'am, you're muted. You're muted.
Yeah.
Unmute yourself. Just say yes.
Sorry, I do. Yes,
Okay,
I do.
and your position with this corporation, you're the managing partner, or?
I'm the Senior Vice President of Construction and Property Management.
All right, thank you. You're sworn, and also the expert has been previously sworn earlier at this meeting, so he's sworn as an expert, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine, Mr. King, thank you.
Thank you. Now, Kristen, just because this is Onyx's, I believe this is Onyx's first formal appearance before our land use board, can you just describe who Onyx is, the property that is the subject of this application, and why it is that your tenant Ferraro would like an identification sign mounted on the facade?
Yeah, first I'd like to say hi to everybody and thank you for, hearing us out tonight. We're really excited to be a part of Parsippany, and I feel like, given the feedback, I should mention that I get a lot of free samples from Ferrero. They also own Ferrero Rocher and Tic Tac, so I'll put that out there to begin with. As Steve said, we purchased the properties. I believe we closed in about August, and we sort of inherited some of the existing applications and construction that was going on. Ferrero being one of our major tenants throughout the campus. They're in 7 Sylvan. I don't know how familiar you are, but it's part of the former Matt Cali corporate business campus. They're on the 4th floor there. They just actually went through an expansion. And when we purchased the place from Matt Cali, they originally filed the application. So I sort of inherited the pleasure of working with Ferraro and sort of getting this taken care of and walk through. And I think, when John pulls up his screen, we'll sort of walk you through what they're looking to do. As the owner of the building, we gave it a vet at first because obviously we didn't want anything there, neon glowing on the side of the building that would make it look not professional. And I think, what they've submitted to us is pretty solid, and we'd love to review it with you, and hopefully you agree, so we could give them the variance to put this up.
Thank you. John McDonough, if you can share our Exhibit 1, which is the sign details, the two-page PDF sign details, which we'll mark as Exhibit 1 tonight.
Bear with me one sec, Steve.
Sure. Now, while John is loading up the sign details, I believe color copies of the same exhibit should be in your packages. I mean, they were filed. I believe this application was filed 11 months ago, so
Yeah.
they might be.
Yes, we have those. We have
There you
those.
go. Okay. So anyway, while John is loading that up, and then John will also load his planning presentation, which we'll call Exhibit 2. But anyway, Kristen, if you have, just can you go over the details for the sign? John McDonough, are you having a hard time finding it?
I have way too many screens open. That's the problem. I'll get there.
Okay.
John,
Okay,
you
so,
still have presenter, correct?
I do. Yep. Bear with me. I'll get there in a sec.
Okay, so just as a little preamble to John's presentation. So what Freyr is looking to do is install a fabricated aluminum letterform sign. They're going to be powder coated painted faces in a warm gold metallic finish. So the current allowable approved maximum height allowance, as you'll see, is marked there, which is sort of in the middle of the window line. What we're proposing is bumping this up to a 49-foot 7-inch sign location. And the total signage is about 27 square feet. It's proportionate to the stair space in the building and also where it's located on the property, which John will show you more of from the actual pictures of the site. So you can see the height from the top to the bottom there is about 1 foot 10 inches. The total width is 14 feet 9 inches, and then the depth is about 6 inches.
Now, Kristen, you can confirm that these are not lit signs. These are not internally lit.
Correct. Yes, that's correct. They're aluminum letterforms. Okay. And it's actually, John, if you go to the next, so this shows you the elevation. The next slide will actually show you details of the sign itself. So it's just mounted to the building facade. There's no electrical necessary because we don't even have any available there for them to light it up. So there's no possibility for them to try to throw that in last minute. But we're going to powder coat this with UV satin clear coat mounted to the face of the building. And that is in a warm gold metallic finish, which is what you'd be used to. I guess I could kind of compare. It's just a nice, pretty like yellowish gold. That doesn't really reflect it. It's actually a little more yellow. But again, not backlit on a stainless steel stand, and it's just your basic aluminum signage.
Thank you, Kristen. I have no further questions for Ms. Pappas.
Any questions by the board?
The signal broke up. I just want to confirm this is not going to be backlit.
That's confirmed.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. It's
All
not.
right.
It's not
Thank you.
backlit. It's also not lit from. It's not lit from anywhere. It's just.
Thank you.
And as a point of business, I'm very happy you guys do samples, but in no way could that be construed as any favorable treatment here.
We're going to wait. We're going to wait till the vote. We're going to wait till the vote before passing out.
Hey, look, when we approved Wawa, they invited us all over for a party. So what are you going to do?
You know, I was in the pharmaceutical business, so I understand the use of samples pretty well.
Any other questions by the board? Any members of the public have any questions of this witness? Nor any hands?
No hands up.
No hands. Okay.
Thank you, Kristen.
Mr. McDonough, the legend of the time.
Yes. Now, John, if you okay, good. You're sharing your screen. This will be Exhibit 2, which is Mr. McDonough's planning presentation. So I'll let John take it away.
Sure thing. And again, we'll be pretty straightforward with this one in terms of the proofs that the applicant needs to meet is really your textbook C2 balancing test, whereby the benefits of the application as a whole would outweigh any detriments associated with this sign package. Again, 7 Sylvan Way is the subject property in the middle of this massive industrial or commercial office complex, a non-residential area. And again, the sign's going to be located on what would be the southwest corner of the building. It's going to identify a name brand tenant, an anchor tenant, which will add value and quality, an identification mechanism as well, and really just a better zoning alternative in terms of the location on the building. This is a ground view that we took back in November to show that locating the sign higher than what's allowed is better than going with the lower location. Again, just in terms of adapting to the architectural backdrop of the building and meeting that planning goal to provide for an identification without being out of context with the building itself. Some more views of where that sign is going to be located. In this particular vantage, Sylvan Way would be to the right. And then two other frames just to show that what the applicant is doing here is compatible with some of the other buildings we see in the complex as well. This is a neighboring building. I think it's 2 buildings away. Very similar sign package with NJM on the top there. So again, I think these visuals give the evidence the board needs to move favorably on this application, that the benefits of locating the sign higher than what's allowed under the zone code would substantially outweigh any negative impacts visually or functionally. And in that regard, I believe the statutory test is met.
Any questions of Mr. McDonough? I hear none and see none. Any members of the public have any questions of this witness? Nor any hands? Okay, thank you, Mr. McDonough. Any other
No hands
witnesses,
raised.
sir? And you don't have any other witnesses, correct?
Other witnesses.
Okay. Are you there, Mr. Tamlin? Do you want to sum, or were you just going to go based on what your witnesses have presented? You can't hear us?
His signal's cutting out.
No. Hold on.
I think that means he doesn't want to sum.
I think he did. Yes. No, right, again, I don't know. All right. Any members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to this application, in support of this application? Any hands raised?
No hands raised.
Laura? No hands. Someone like to make a comment about this sign?
Yeah, I think it's a good application. We need these people to come into town. You're not affecting anybody. There's no residents, so I'll be in favor of it.
Someone frame a resolution? Come on, let's have a volunteer here.
I will. An application 2009 Sylvan Campus Realty 7 Sylvan Way, block 202, lot 3-4, zone SED 10, that we grant the C variance to install the proposed signage.
Second, Jaskowitz.
Second. Thank you. Any discussion? Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Jaskowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Kaplan,
Yes.
Mr. Parikh,
Yes.
Mr. Prasad,
Yes.
Mr. Reddy,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Willens,
Yes.
Chairman Irakane.
Yes. Result is the variance is granted. To you guys at Ferraro, welcome to the town.
Hey, thank you.
And our new landlord in town, welcome.
Thank you.
Good luck renting offices. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have one thing I'd like to discuss with the board, just very, very briefly. At the last meeting, we had an application, and the application involved putting up a fence and tying it into a neighbor's fence. Okay? And we started asking questions of the witness, and I got the feeling that we were trying to be prosecutors, and that's not our job. Our job is to get the information and render a judgment on the request for variances. Now, granted, sometimes there's a little additional information that has to be done here and there, but we were requesting this guy to get notarized statements from his neighbors because we didn't trust him. Well, first of all, the man was testifying under oath, and under oath to me means a lot. If I was under oath, I would never lie. And if they did lie and we found out about it, there are consequences, right, Mr. King?
Well, yes, there are consequences.
So I think we just have to be cautious and let's not be prosecutors, okay?
Oh,
Let's
hold
not
on,
come
hold
in
on
here-
for a second. Hold on for a second. I get that, but we also have to
Excuse
do
me
our.
just 1 minute before you get to, are
Wait
we?
a second. You don't interrupt me, Davey. I started
It's still on
talking
the record.
first.
No, I just want to
Still on
make
the
sure
record.
we're talking, are we
Hold
still,
on for
on
a
the record.
second.
are we on record here to
Yes,
the public
yes.
or just our board?
Yes. No.
I think the public's still here.
You are on record.
That's
Okay.
fine. We could be on record.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we know that.
The man testified that it was okay for his neighbors, but no neighbors showed up to confirm that. We're not being prosecutors. We're just being careful. And
No,
we
no.
want to do
We're being-
thorough
we're not-
paperwork.
We are asking of witnesses like that entirely too much. The man said he got the permission from his next door neighbor. Okay, so we asked for it in writing. Okay,
That's
so we got the letter. But then we went and we said, we have to have these notarized.
Well, if somebody's going to put something in writing, they should have verification that the person writing it is indeed that neighbor. I mean, come on, in days of forgery, we're not going to just be
Snyder,
careful about it.
With all due respect, this is not federal court. Okay, this is
It's not federal court, but we
And I-
want
and
to
I-
do our due diligence. I
And we
don't get
do.
it. I really don't get it. If we can't just go by an applicant's attestation that their neighbor knows that he's going to tie into their fence. I mean, that applicant should have been more prepared and brought the neighbors with him. That is very
Not
easy to bring.
necessarily. That is totally untrue. You have 10% of the experience that I have on this board. And I have never, ever, ever requested that of someone, that they
Well,
drag.
of course
me
you,
into
you've been
situations
alive
like that.
longer. You've been alive longer, understood. But I mean, what would have happened if an applicant, not this applicant, he sounded very truthful, but it's just a matter of protecting the township. I don't get it. Why would you not want to make sure that neighbors are notified that a particular applicant's going to tie into their fence?
The applicant was notified within 200 feet of this property. If he hadn't, he could have come to the meeting. I just want us to lighten up a little on some of these applications. Look, we've had some real dogs. We had a dog with a 6-foot fence tonight, and that's a totally different situation. All right, I've said my piece. Take it for what it's worth, okay? Take it for what it's worth. I think we have to understand what we're here for. Okay, any other business? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move, Snyder.
Second, Jaskowitz.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, guys, have a nice evening.
I agree with you, Chairman.
Nora, are you there?
Good night.
Nora,
Yes.
are you there?
When's our next meeting?